You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
Wake up to the world you've been missing. Time to jump out of bed in the morning. No day, no life, now we're living. Can you feel it in the air that you're breathing? Time to show 'em what you're made of. Let's get back on track. Are you ready for a come on? Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Are you ready now? You're lifting off the ground. Welcome back. No coming down. Can you feel it all around? Welcome back.
Hello and welcome back to Super Mega Crash Beyond. I am your host, Stephen White. With me, as always, my co-host, Lacey F. Finley.
Oh, happy Monday.
I hope everyone is having a good time, enjoying
Yes.
the weather. I guess it's been kind of nice.
Depends on probably where you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You know, my niece sends me texts almost daily. She lives in Louisiana, and it's not been a good time. They're like so hot, their ground was bubbling.
Oh, my God.
She took a picture. I've never quite seen that before. It now looks like they have a fresh new road bump or speed bump in the middle of the street.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
Never in my life. So it's hot, needless to say. Yeah.
Well, I've been worried that we're going to get a bad winter this year because we've had, over the last few weeks, there have been mild days where you're just outside going, man, it feels amazing out here.
Yeah.
And then you have other days it goes back to the heat. So it's just like, so what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like I was kind of expecting some of the milder days a little later in the month.
Sure.
And then we had just been maintaining the heat, but the mild days came early and I've been worried. So
Yeah, and we haven't really had the insane hot because I was always used to at least having a week of high 90s, triple digits, nice and humid, could cut it with a knife. You know, we didn't have it nearly as long as other places, of course, you know, but we haven't had it.
yeah.
And I mean, I can't complain. Ours has been mild. We've had lots and lots of rain. So it's pretty much stayed in like the 70s and 80s. We've had a few days where it was, you know, but nothing long enough to care about. So we've had a pretty nice summer too. So to your point, it does make me a little scared for the winter. I might have to like nope out on life for a couple of months.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's why I look forward to my breaks around Thanksgiving and Christmas. I have enough vacation time now that I can just take both of those weeks off and still have plenty for the year. So
That's
It's
nice.
amazing.
You don't have to compete with a bunch of other people for it.
Oh no, I have kind of carved out my own little hole at my job to where I don't depend on anyone. So no one
love
depends
it.
on me, and I can just take off. I just know that when I come in the next day, it's just I'll deal with it. It's fine.
Right. You're just
I'm
going to have a
just-
week's worth of stuff to do the first day back. But, yeah.
But I also have things to keep me occupied while I do it. I've got podcasts, things like that I can listen to. I don't listen to ours, but, you know, I could if I needed extra content just to listen back at it.
Oh, I do rarely, but yeah. I feel like I was like, I was there.
I remember the conversation to a point.
Not always will I remember, but
Oh, I mean,
sometimes
it's,
people would say something on Twitter or whatever about the blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, crap, I better go back and listen because I don't know if I remember what they're talking about.
Yeah, what did I say?
It was a joke
Oh,
I made.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
yeah, I saw a comment on something when not that long ago. I think it was a memory on Facebook, and I can't remember what it was either. But it was a comment I got from a friend of mine that was quoting something that I had said, and said it was the funniest damn thing ever. Said I literally LOL'd, and I was reading it going, "What did I say?" and then I was trying to remember, and where did I say it?
Right.
And I think after I did some deductions looking at the time frame on it, I think it had to have been in a Porter and Ale episode or something of that nature. Or even a Savor the Flavor, because I was like, I don't remember what this was, but that's the only thing that made any sense to me. I was like, well, it had to be one of those things. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, you talk too much, people listen, and then I'm like, damn it, I don't remember.
But
Sorry,
it made me
guys.
feel good, you know,
Yeah.
that I did make someone LOL in real life, you know.
Lol.
I can do that on occasion, especially when I'm on a roll and I can rant about things. You can ask my wife. She like dies laughing, says it was wrong. We actually got into, I do want to bring this up. Based on when this episode comes out, I'm not 100% sure. It'll probably be a little later, but could be very soon. We did an episode of Inspired by a Weeaboo recently, and there was we got off track, okay, at the very end, because there was a topic of discussion, and I don't want to bring it up here because I want people to go find it. I think it was an episode
Listen to it, yeah.
38 or 39. I want to say 38. I could be wrong. But there was a relation. We were discussing a relationship between certain characters, and then I just kind of threw out a possibility or a way to look at it a certain way. And she scoffed or chuckled at my suggestion. So that just led me on this tirade.
Just fed the monster.
Trying to explain myself because I didn't feel like what I had described was bad. But I don't know. It went way off the rails really quick. Yeah. And so the episode could be out right now. Like I said, I think it's episode 38. The reason I can't say that is because I haven't dug it out yet. You know, we just recently recorded it. So I don't know. Well,
go check it out.
Yeah, go check it out for that thing. And for the anime, because maybe you like anime. Anyway, we're not talking about anime.
Oh.
We thought, since it was fairly fresh in our mind, and maybe hopefully fresh in the minds of some of our listeners, we would talk about Twisted Metal.
Twisted Metal.
The series on Peacock. The Peacock original, if you will.
Yes.
So I want to preface this, and I definitely want your take up front. I have never played a Twisted Metal game, ever.
Nope, same.
Okay, so I had zero expectations.
Right.
I was aware of at least Sweet Tooth.
Yeah,
because he was kind of the face of the...
Like on the box art. I feel like we saw him there. Like I've seen the game, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But there's never been a moment where it's been on my radar. I know that there have been tons of them. I know what it's supposed to be. But I think when it started off on PS1, I'm almost positive, correct?
That could be. I know it's fairly old. Twisted Metal video game.
I'm almost positive it's a PS1 title. If I'm wrong, PS2 at the very earliest. Man. But I feel like it was a PS1 title.
You might be right. Let me go to the good old wikis.
Woo!
But like they've got to have a timeline one usually, don't they? Where I don't have to read all of it. PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 2, PlayStation. Yes.
Okay.
And then so oh my god, it was on like portables and all sorts of stuff. So
wow.
Main video game Twisted Metal 1995 PlayStation PC.
All right. So it was like
PlayStation in 95?
Yes, it was. That was like I think that was the starting year for it.
That could be.
Because
wow, all right.
I remember I was a wee teen when it was coming out, and I was like, oh man, I'd love to get me one of those. But it's so expensive. But I have this other console, and you know, you were just torn because it seemed like the neat new toy. But I had this. I guess a lot of consoles at the time, even as it was a cool new console, you'd see a lot of these other brands come out that weren't Nintendo, that weren't Sega, and they would just like the 3DO, the M2, the Sega Saturn, no, the Atari Jaguar.
Oh god,
remember that one?
Yeah.
So you'd have all these things come out, and it was just like, so do I want to invest in this new product? I understand it's Sony, but even like the CDI, wasn't that Philips Magnavox? So you have this known brand, and they're showcasing their new things, and you're like, this is cool, but are you going to exist after? Because Nintendo...
Are going to develop for you,
Yeah, because Nintendo's been over here, and I think it was one of the main reasons I was such a loyalist, because I was like, they've been here since I've been a kid.
Right.
And they
Still
haven't-
giving me stuff.
Yeah, and they're not going anywhere. What are you doing?
Yeah. What are you going to give me, Sony? I think it was the same for us. It wasn't until the 2 where I was like, okay, maybe this is going to stick around. But you already know, as soon as I got a PC, that's pretty much where I went full in with my games. I had my Nintendos and all that kind of stuff. And then I didn't really buy a lot until, I got with the hubs. He's console, so we have a lot of them still. But yeah.
But yeah, no. So I was not aware. Well, I was aware of the game, but I never played it. It was always one of those games I would hear about in game magazines and be like, oh, there's a new Twisted Metal coming out. I was like, cool. But I was never drawn to it,
I never did a lot of racing games. There was a few. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. There was a few that caught my ie and that I definitely played for. F-Zero is one that comes to mind that I just abused when it came out for N64. I played it a lot. But yeah, I didn't necessarily go for a lot of racing games. So easy for me to know why I probably just blew right past it. And it was on PC, so I can't even say that was my excuse, is that I wasn't playing on console. So yeah, like the Demolition Derby type. Yeah, I just don't think it caught my eye. Nothing other than that.
And I mean, I guess there's something interesting or fun about that. But again, at the time, I guess as it was progressing as a series, there was never anything that really drew me in. So maybe by the time I did jump to PlayStation, I still wasn't drawn to it, And I know I could play them now. I'm almost positive that a lot of the earlier games are on PlayStation Now or even PlayStation Plus.
Yeah, I was just reading here. It even says that the first 95 and 96 game, Twisted Metal, and then 2 is on PS4 and PS5. It's saying so it had to have been ported at some point. I doubt remastered or anything, but I don't know.
I doubt
that
it
for a fact, but
Yeah.
it just seems like they made it available to play over there. So yeah, probably some service you subscribe to for older games and play it. I would imagine. It's my guess.
So I guess we just wanted to clarify, we have no skin in this game. So if there was anything that this series did that was wrong
Right.
to fans
Well,
or what have you.
I would be interested to hear that, though, because I looked up a little bit of it before I started the series because I wanted to know, is there even a plot line that we're following? I would imagine you've got characters that have some sort of backstories or something like that. But is there a story? And it doesn't really seem like it. So please correct me if I'm wrong from what I'm seeing here. So I kind of felt like that gave Peacock carte blanche to just use the world and do whatever the heck they wanted, which is what I feel like they probably did. But again, someone who's played the games and stuff, let me know. Because from what I can tell, it doesn't seem like we were missing anything.
It almost kind of seemed in that regard to where when they did Mortal Kombat the first time,
Okay, yeah.
we had the title cards or the character cards within the game where you could kind of read a bit of history about each character, so you kind of had some idea.
You could role play a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But beyond what you were kind of given on that text card, it was like, okay, so Johnny Cage happens to be an actor, Hollywood star who knows Kung Fu and he got sucked into Mortal Kombat. Got it. And that's all you have. So if you wanted to flesh that out more, you just have a baseline on what to start with. That kind of seems to me, like as you said, that's all the games had. So you had like a little bit of an understanding of the character, but that was it. Now, what they did in subsequent games, no idea.
No idea.
But
yeah.
I would assume they were kind of starting from scratch saying, okay, well, what could we do not to overcomplicate it? Because I know, again, not having any knowledge, but I'm aware that certain characters in this show were playable characters in the games, but maybe some of them were not utilized in the same way.
I don't know. I feel like our two protagonists were probably just made up for the show.
Yeah,
I feel
because
like they were probably just put in there for this. Yeah.
Because Anthony Mackie, he plays a John Doe.
John Doe.
So that almost seems like you're saying, well, that's you.
Yeah.
You know.
Whoever here. Yeah. Like back in the day in the 90s, they didn't have, real deep facial features. So you could pretty easily put whomever over that model, really. It had eyes, a mouth, and a nose, and that was basically
Right.
it. Yeah.
So I think that's fair, though, because then that kind of gives us an avatar, if you will, of our own.
Right.
To say that,
Yeah.
well, that could be us. in that situation.
Player one that just entered the game.
And then same goes for Quiet, who is Stephanie Beatriz,
Yes.
who it was an amazing thing to kind of see her here, and even more amazing because I don't know about you if you knew her from before Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but that's where I first got acquainted.
For sure knew her. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But that's
Not really.
where we first got acquainted with her, and at some point, Katrina had picked up, and she's like, her voice sounds familiar. And then come to find out, she was the Mirabelle in that Disney movie Encanto.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And she was like, and she became obsessed at that point. It's like, did she sing all her songs? It's like, yep, she sang all her songs. She did all her dialogue. And it's like,
good
wow.
for her.
So it was one of those kind of disconnected because like I wouldn't have put that voice to that face, and there it is.
No, and I didn't even know she sang, so that's even cool. Like,
Yeah.
does she dance too? Is she just a triple threat? Jeez.
I guess maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
But so what were your initial thoughts?
You know, honestly, I just thought it was fun. I was pretty shocked at how much fun I was having as we were going through it. I kind of liked that I didn't have any, anything in my head, what I was going to expect or anything ahead of time. I knew post-apocalyptic world, fine. We're going to do whatever the heck we want to with that. And I did find it very interesting how they played the character of Sweet Tooth with having two actors to take this on. So big dude Joe Sanoa. I had to look their names up because this not a steel trap up here. But then Will Arnett being the voice, kind of perfect.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I do enjoy Will Arnett in quite a few things that he does. Some things, a little too much over the top, and I can let you go there. But I think his persona nailed it. Now, I don't know if that's how people who play the game would vision Sweet Tooth, I don't know, again. But it just seemed like such a perfect match. The guy's physicality to be able to make it sync so well with what Will Arnett was saying. I had no clue. Like, if you didn't know that was two different people, you'd ever heard of Will Arnett or this, I don't know that I would have known that it was a separate individual doing the voice. And an interesting play. Almost makes me wonder, is Joe not an actor? Just a big dude they could use?
I
Because
think he is a wrestler, if I'm not mistaken.
that would track.
Yeah.
That would track. They don't. Well, I think they're actors anyway. I know.
Sure.
I know people can get all mad at me, but let's just be real. They're still actors. Anyway, that just was beautiful to me. I think those two went together very nicely. And just to get to see some other people that I haven't seen in a while. I know we talked about Thomas Hayden Church, and I know I feel so bad that the first thing I say for him is lol. I know he's done so much better things.
But
I don't know why.
That's where we first met him. It was on
It had to
Wings.
be.
Yeah.
It had to be because for some reason I know he's done so much shit since then. Like so much that if I walked up to him right now and went, lol, he'd probably be like, really? I have such a body of great work.
But
that
you know
was
what?
much better than Wings.
He might actually appreciate that too. It's like, man, no one ever talks about Lowell anymore.
Right.
So he might actually just be a little impressed by that, going, good pull, good pull.
Good pull. Yeah, the good old mechanic from back in the Wings days. Anywho, but yes, again, lovely job playing just the asshole cop. Oh, we should probably say spoilers, right? If you haven't seen the series, we're going to be like all sorts of spoilers here. So I very much enjoyed his version of the cops and what they did with him.
Yeah.
Anthony Mackie, what can you say? I think he's fun.
Oh,
And
yeah.
You could tell he just seemed like he was having a good time. And then the camaraderie between, Quiet and John, so Mackie and Stephanie, really good. Before I would go into my complaints, I did enjoy the story. I did like what they did with it. I like how they left it at the end. Could kind of go either way with the strike. Who knows? Maybe that will be its last season. We don't know. But I liked how they set it up. I feel like it could be a fun second season if they get to keep moving forward.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, initial thoughts was just like, this was just a good time. Just sit down, turn your brain off, and let them do tons of bizarre, oddball things that would never work in reality, but it's fun. And,
Sure.
So what about you? Yeah, initial thoughts.
I know that a lot of people like yourself and I think even Todd was telling me about this show and asking if I'd watched it, and I didn't watch it initially when it came out, and it wasn't out of a lack of interest. It was just I had other things I was kind of invested in, and I was like, well, I'll get around to it. I kind of want to finish this first, and we kind of hit a wall with that show that we were watching, and it was just like, I need a change. I need a change.
Like for what you were watching to go to. Okay.
It was like we had been binge watching that, and it was kind of getting into this lull of just like, I just need a break. So I remembered, I was like, well, Twisted Metal, and I was looking at the time, and I was like, watch about 2 episodes, I guess, or something like that. Maybe it'll be
They're
fine.
like 30 minutes. Yeah.
And that is one of the things I'll touch on in just a second. But I just decided, I was like, well, I'll watch about 1 or 2 episodes, kind of get a feel for it, and then we'll see where we go from there, and maybe I'll come back to it. And as soon as we started, I mean, that was just, we practically finished it that weekend because it was like,
I think we went through it in a weekend too, like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of situation.
Because you get a sense of everything going on. It's dark, but it's also humorous, and it's got the sensibilities. And I felt like the sensibilities were familiar, and then I saw who the executive producers and writers were. Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. They are 2 of the guys who co-wrote Deadpool. And I thought, well...
Oh, well then this all is making sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So it took me a second because I knew their names, and I was like, why do I know their names? And then it clicked, and I was like, that explains so much.
Yeah, that tracks completely.
So, 30-minute episodes at most. They are involved. They're very detailed, but nothing ever feels like it overstays its welcome. Everything is well told within those 30 minutes, and then move along.
Yeah.
As you said, there are moments where they felt like they were adding unnecessary drama.
Yeah. My only real chief complaint is the dynamic at times between Quiet and John. Like, I was accepting, like, she just had a bad attitude. But let's be fair, right? When we first meet her, running from the cops, Agent Stone, right? With her brother, who does not make it out of this exchange, right? So this is a very traumatic experience. You eventually get background on where they were coming from, because the first time I saw them, like, why the hell are they in a hearse? You know what I mean? Like, but they do finally explain all that. So I'm forgiving to a degree with having a bad attitude. You just had a shit life coming up, and this like just happened, so fair. But every single episode to have her get, in my opinion, artificially pissed off about every little thing that he did, said, wanted to try to help or whatever, just got on my nerves. Even if it's valid, like, yes, I understand why she's this way. From an entertainment standpoint, I can only take it for so long before it just starts to get on my nerves.
Right. There was a point where I think the very first time that I noticed that overreaction came with the jacket. When John was washing the jacket, trying to do her a favor, and then she immediately just blew up. She's like, oh my God, why are you doing? What are you doing? And she's like, I'm washing your jacket. And she's like, I tried to understand it because even her reasoning at that moment saying, well, that's all I had left of him. So it was like, okay, so the blood on the jacket, it's her brother, technically. Right. So it was just a way of hanging on to something artificial as it may be, mentally, because of everything she went through. It felt like an overreaction, but at the same time, I was like, I'm trying to understand that. Okay, I said, I still felt like you blew up a little, just like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Or an initial blow up, and then eventually you come to your senses a little bit, where you just had this lovely exchange finally. You both finally sat down and actually looked like friends for a moment, you know, and then just to go straight back without any kind of nuance there for getting angry and then being like, well, just to let you know, and like be pissed. But does it have to be every time you're stomping and threatening to just like leave and steal his car or some shit? You know, it's just like,
And there would be subsequent moments after the fact where, and I can't remember one of the other times, but I remember there was a point where I was like, okay, what the fuck? You know,
Right.
it just felt like you're taking it at, like, why are you going from 0 to 60 like that every single time? It's like, Jesus Christ,
she was
rein
still
it in.
pissy in the semi when they got on the semi people, or I can't remember what the group name was, but like
Yeah.
a city on wheels. Basically, they had everything set up in these 3 or 4 semi trucks that was just constantly kept moving, and like still pissy throughout that whole thing. And I'm like, now granted, I think we're supposed to believe this is all over 10 days, course
Something
of 10
like
days.
that, yeah.
Because he was on a timer, because like I guess the TLDR for the whole series is he is a, what do they call him? Milkman. So in this war-torn world, he's the one that will brave the elements and make deliveries between all of these like made-up cities. You know, they have medicine, you have food. He's the one that'll brave all of that stuff to get it to and from. You know, so then he was there. What the name of the city that they all wanted to live in? And see, this is why I should have wrote some of this stuff down, because I knew I was going to forget it. But there's a city that everybody wants to get in because it's kind of like living normal life. They made up a nice little suburb, got a little shopping center. It just kind of feels like you're in your own little city with disregard for what's actually been going on in the outside world, which is whom Nev Campbell is the leader. I did not expect to see her. And this was a wonderful change of character that I've not gotten to really see her play.
Sure, yeah, it was definitely a change of pace for that actress for me.
Yeah. I mean, I would say I'm a decent fan. I've not seen every single piece of work that she's done, but I've seen quite a bit, and she hooked me since Party of Five. So I've been watching her for a while. I watched that show when it was still brand new on the TVs. I used to have a crush on Scott Wolf. So there you go. So, you know, she's Sydney Watson now. That's what people, everyone's like, that's Sydney Watson. So it was very nice to get to see her not be necessarily a wonderful human. You know, it was an interesting thing. I don't want to actually spoil what the big mission was, because honestly, when I found out what it was, oh my God, I died. Or maybe I should. I don't know.
It was surprise. It was like, what?
What? Like, that's when you knew super bitch, right? Super bitch. So she needs something, and basically shows John Doe around the city, how life could be for him, lets him stay there for a little bit, so long as he makes this delivery, and he's not allowed to ask or know what it is. And he's got 10 days to do it, to get it to New Chicago, and then back to this city that for some reason now is escaping my name.
I feel like it's
Arizona?
Yeah, why? I was even trying to figure it out, because I thought it was just
I remember New Chicago is where he was going.
Like San
yeah.
Francisco. Well, no, it's not San Francisco. I don't know.
We're the worst. I should have wrote all of this down
Really should have.
beforehand. But yeah, that's kind of the TLDR of the plot for the entire season, is that he is dropping off this package, and then all of the tomfoolery that happens along the way,
Right.
trying to get to there, which is how he met Quiet on the road, saving her. And then Sweet Tooth, which you guys kind of, I think, already saw in the commercials.
Yeah. And I want to talk about Sweet Tooth for a minute, because I feel like his character, like you said, despite being, I mean, the way it was played out, because as you said, that was so impressive, because usually that kind of dynamic doesn't really work when you have a voice and an actor doing two different things, because sometimes maybe it's lost in translation. Someone's not doing the same thing, but they must have been working in tandem. I feel like they had to have been.
Yeah.
Because it's so on point. But Sweet Tooth would be the greatest example of a character who has an arc. And I guess Quiet to a point too. I guess they all do in some way. But
I feel like she could have had a better one, but yes.
Sure. But it was this, where it does this thing of being very, very dark, but also comedic.
Yeah.
Where, because he's just a wild card character who is all about the psychotic blood and gore, and you
but all
really
he wants to do is entertain.
Yeah. And that's where it gets a little weird, because you're like, I don't know how to take this dude, and you kind of warm up to him, and then you get a bit of his backstory, and you're just like, I don't know about you anymore, man. So you're just kind of teetering on this. Is like, do I like him? Do I not like him? I mean, he's kind of entertaining, but I don't know if I like him, because he's a little just like too far.
Definitely Yeah. Like,
And then especially, and we'll try to save some spoilers, things like that. But there's something that happens toward the end where I felt like you lose. Like I felt like I pulled away from him a bit. Where it's like, now I don't know if I'm on your side anymore.
when we got a little out of reality there for a moment, which might have been a video game throwback, honestly.
May have been. Well, not that. It's kind of how everything kind of wound up for him when everything in the finale, which I'll say,
Right.
if you're looking for something very game related,
That
they
had to
saved
be.
that for the final episode of
Yeah.
the season, where it's like, okay, now we're doing Twisted Metal.
All the
But-
cars are getting lined up and doing their thing. Yeah.
But what he does in that moment, like his big move in the big, what would you call it? Demolition
Showdown, I
Derby.
guess.
Yeah, showdown.
like,
There you go.
when everybody's like, tensions are coming to a head.
It's like I felt like if you had any sympathy for him or you felt like he was doing good, he made a decision or made a call where it kind of took that away, and you're just like, I'm not sure if I can be on your side anymore, because now you're starting to go against what I would do or my values.
Oh, he goes against anything I would do. So
Sure,
have to
but I
be
mean,
specific
like,
on this one.
you just felt like he had no loyalty to people or things, and it just, I don't know. I kind of felt like he made a decision that made me go, shit.
Well, if we're talking about like with Stu,
Yeah,
Stu,
yeah.
the big S's, the Stu guys, S and S,
Stu
or whatever.
the S
So,
brothers.
Yeah, the S brothers. That was it. Because he did, save them. But I thought that arc was kind of fun. So when he first
Yeah.
met his friend, basically being this savior, if you will, which is. I thought that whole thing was fun because, like, the cops in this situation are kind of the bad guys because they were just some random vigilante guys who got together and decided we're going to run this shit now, right? I want to say Agent Stone was a cop beforehand. I feel like we did learn that, but not
Wasn't
a
he-
great one.
What, I thought he was a security guard. Didn't they call him out?
Oh,
as
maybe it
like
was
a mall security guard.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I got that confused because I just remember when the chick came over to like steal all his stuff. And then they're like, should have been a better cop or something like that, and then he had his whole coming
Or maybe-
together. But I think you might be right. It was just kind of like a rent-a-cop.
Yeah, I know that there was a conversation. So he may have been an actual cop, but then did the night security as like a
They
side
do
job
that a
or
lot for
something like
side
that.
gig. Yeah, for
Yeah.
money, like just do security in places. So, yeah.
So I feel like they had that conversation at some point. I don't remember.
Yeah. But they are like torturing, of course, people who don't play ball with their laws, rules, whatever they've made up because they're the ones who decided they're the leaders here. I don't think this was a democracy of any sort. Yeah, he gets to be the good guy in that situation,
Sure.
So then they become friends. But honestly, I think I'm kind of surprised at Stu's decision because towards like Stu was one of those, he was a cop, but not any backbone, I guess, if you will.
Right.
However, the situations they wanted him to do in, I kind of like, even if he had backbone, you're just wanting us to senselessly kill people.
Yeah, and I feel like that's where Stu was such a good guy because he had morals. Because he was like, just because this is how you want to do things doesn't mean that's the way I want to do it. And you're going to punish me because I don't want to senselessly kill people. So I think it was great that they had a character like Stu to kind of be those type of people because despite being in the apocalypse, you're still going to have morals and values, or
There's
at
got to be
least
some
some
good
people
people.
would be.
Yeah.
So I can imagine there's people out there who's just like, I don't want to kill people,
No. Yeah.
Like if I have to in the heat of the moment, fine. But you're telling me that I have someone dead to rights and you want me to kill them for what?
just to
you know?
prove I'm backbone enough to be a cop with you guys.
Yeah.
It was pretty much all it was. Like, kill these two people, prove your mettle to us. And it's like, but Mike, though, on the other hand, no problems, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's just 100% survival. So I will do whatever I need to do to stay on this side of the grass kind of situation. You want me to kill people? Fine. You don't want me to? Fine. I'll do whatever. Which made me kind of hate his character too. I'll be honest. I thought he was going to turn on Stu. I
did too.
Really did. I really did. Because after there is a situation where Stu does manage to save Mike from Sweet Tooth. So I thought maybe that's our moment. Mike
Yeah.
had his coming around moment. And then they had to pull some other stupid shit where he was gonna kill him anyway. I think.
Yeah.
I think if he hadn't have missed, fuck you, Mike.
Yeah.
Just that's all I'm gonna say. Fuck you, Mike. So yeah, was that what you were talking about when he's got like them both in the truck?
Yeah.
And then Stu finally makes the decision, and then he's fine.
Yeah. Well, we expected as much. I mean, you can't kill off your prize character.
It's true. It was too fun. But yeah, I don't know. I felt like that would have been a possible real life situation scenario.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm sure Stu was still completely freaked out that Sweet Tooth wanted to be his friend. And Stu's like, I don't know how to be your friend because you're the antithesis of all I want to be in life.
But at the same time, I mean, we even kind of discussed this at one point with a character like Sweet Tooth. If you could be his buddy, he could be your muscle.
Yeah,
and
you
ain't
definitely
gotta
want to be on
about
his good
shit.
side.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's just not somebody you want to piss off. I could understand it being a little uncomfortable because he gets a little clingy with his buddies. And it's just like, all right, man, I'll be your buddy, but just give me some space. Just a little bit.
So Scary Gentleman, of course, to have as your friend. But, yeah, I mean, he just wanted to go around doing his show
And he was
for everybody.
pissed off
get
that he
applause.
was upstaged by a dog.
Oh my gosh. When I saw that, I was like, oh my God. Like, if you're willing to off a dog in a show, nobody gives a fuck how many humans you kill, but you kill a dog,
Right? What is up with that?
and people lose their mind. But that gives you an insight on how screwed up he was as a child. Now, I know they were trying to explain that his parents were kind of to blame for that. Doesn't seem like they treated him very well in his upbringing either. So I'm sure they created this monstrosity of a human, and then the apocalypse happened and he had no reins put on him, you know?
Sure,
So he's just
exactly.
able to go free. So you want to feel sad for him. And then, but when he does that and just turns around like, line, I'm like, oh my God, he's lost. He's psycho.
Yeah,
no
he's
feeling.
lost it.
Gone.
He's a very complicated character in that regard to where how you feel about him, because you do kind of like him, but you're just like, God, I feel bad for liking this psychopath.
Yeah. So that's good writing, though, right?
Yeah,
Where it's
oh,
like,
yeah,
you know
absolutely.
for sure I shouldn't like this person, but
kinda
it's kind
fun.
of likable in some areas, you know? Even if he is slaughtering everyone, he's got a charisma to it, you know?
It
A
creates
flair.
good emotional conflict for you to have for a character like that. I feel like that's
Absolutely.
good writing.
Yeah, for sure.
I do want to talk about Quiet and Loud's backstory because that was messed up.
Right. Oh, wow. You're right. Yeah. Go for
Because what that did for me is immediately it was just like, what happened in the world after the apocalypse? That this became the norm.
it. Right.
Because, so again, spoilers for anybody, shouldn't even have to repeat. But
Right.
so those characters, they were working on like an apple orchard or an orange
That's what it
orchard.
looked like.
Yeah.
Like farmers. Yeah, they were.
And it was just basic work. They whatever it was that they were doing, just picking
Pulled fruit
apples
from the
and
trees,
whatnot.
put them in the baskets, load them up.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Yep.
But Quiet had, bigger aspirations. She's like, oh man, we're going to get into the big city, whatever, the city whose name we can't fucking remember.
None of us can remember right now. Neither of us. None of us. Whatever.
I feel like it was a city in California.
It had to be because I know they were in that area, and then when they were showing us the map for going up to New Chicago, was the first time that I was just like seeing how they have their United States kind of split up now after this thing had happened. I'm gonna
Sure.
say twisted, mad. I'm gonna find out now.
All right. So
So
as
we're
the
not being stupid.
so what they were they had, or she had dreams of getting to the city, because being in the city behind the walls, that was like the dream life, that you can live the good life. And it didn't. Now, granted, I'm not saying that picking apples or whatever is like the greatest life in the world.
But once we know their options,
Once you know your options, yeah, you're
that
just
would
like,
have been
all right, well,
great.
that could be better. So she finds a way to cut a deal, I guess, to get them in. So it required them taking a deal where they both got 2 jobs that they had to work at for, was it 4 years? And then,
Yeah.
yeah. And then after the 4 years, then they could be accepted into the wall or whatever this town is, this great city. And it sounds like a great idea. And she was just like, and you even thought, well,
It does
this
sound like a great idea.
what was it, service industry, and then the way it said on paper, it was like,
Yeah.
well, here's a service industry, and then she would be, I don't even remember what it was, but it was just a very
It was just innocuous jobs.
technical term. And come to find out, it was like indentured servitude, and they would cut ears off and fingers and toes, and because they didn't,
whatever that person wanted to keep as a souvenir off of you.
Yeah. So these people were just as psychotic.
Savage. Yeah.
And oh my God.
And it's just even the way they talk to him. I'm just like, and humans would do this. This is
Oh,
what's
yeah.
so sad, is that there would be a group of people who would get that kind of power. Well, we've seen it in history already. Let's just say that. But yeah, that could totally happen if an apocalypse happened. Just a group of people that's...
And it just, again, it made me wonder, it's like, how the fuck did this happen?
Right. And for it to be so out there, too, because I would imagine that was their version of the law that showed up right when we saw what happened to Loud with his ear, at the end of that section. Anyway, not
Yeah.
but so
It's just-
casual about it. Nobody gave a crap.
Right. It was a really messed up situation. And like I said, the show can be a lot of fun, and it can go to these dark places, but it never felt like they took it to the dark place without cutting back on some levity. Like, even if they left you at a dark spot, because I know that there was an episode or two where they did, it didn't feel like, oh man, I can't, like you don't feel drained from it. Like if you tried to binge watch The Handmaid's Tale, you were going to be depressed.
You're gonna be done with all of this.
If you binge watch this, you were not going to get that. You'll come back up and you'll be like, all right. So, but again, I appreciated that balance. And again, good writing, that you can find your humor, you can do some crazy stuff, but you can also have these deep emotional moments that resonate. And just because that whole scene in the restaurant just angered me to no end, because it was like, I don't know what is going on, but every one of these people can fuck right.
Yeah, and then when they had that conversation, like in the walk-in, or the back anyway, I don't know if it was necessarily the walk-in cooler, because he was I guess worked at this fast food restaurant behind the counter, and she ended up being, I guess, someone's personal slave. I mean, he might have been also, but he had a job, where hers was just to take care of whoever that bitch was. Yeah, that was kind of heartbreaking. And when she started to become quiet, because she talked just like everybody else, and then trauma, and here we are.
And it made sense. It was a good backstory to understand why someone would just clam up, because that's pretty much what you've been told. And if you don't, you're gonna lose a finger or whatever.
And probably not even trusting your own judgment anymore, because you thought this was going to be just something you probably had to work hard for a couple of years and then earn your way into a sweeter life. You didn't know it was going to be this, and she's the one who brought it up and locked them into it. So you already now traumatic that you just did this to yourself and your brother with good intentions. I mean, no one would have known, I don't think, but still, I feel that would weigh on you too.
Sure. I mean,
Absolutely.
why wouldn't it? You'd have guilt for the rest of your day, saying like, "What have I done?"
Yeah.
I've
We could have still been picking apples, and this is what I did. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a messed up situation for
Yeah.
sure.
It was a hard tale to tell, but I think they did it well. I think they did it well.
I'm trying to see if there was anything out of any of the other episodes, something that really stood out that I wanted to talk about.
I mean, we've got to give hats off to when Jason Mantzoukas shows up in anything, though.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as I saw him in one of the episodes, I'm like, this is just going to be glorious, whatever it is, because no matter what he's in, I just enjoy it. He's always just fun. There's something about his personality and how he does stuff. I'm drawn to it. So when I saw him show up, I'm like, this is going to be great. And of course it was. But you and I were talking about this, that I feel like Peacock missed a great opportunity, because Stephanie's character in Brooklyn Nine-Nine was dating Jason's character for a little bit in the show. Just as crazy dude, like he also off his rocker. That was on NBC, if we remember. At least, you know, it got bought from NBC. Thank you, because Fox was canceling it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You could have had something really funny with those two meeting back up together. It could have been glorious. And you didn't even have them interact.
I know, right? Ugh.
I was so bummed at the end of it. I'm like, really? You're not going to have some? You own both right now, NBC. You own both. You're not taking anything. Those of us who, if you know, you know. And it could have just been fun for some of us that, yeah. But anyway, Jason's character, phenomenal. That whole episode was a lot of fun. But yeah, I just feel like that was such a missed opportunity. We could have had just a little, like, you know, side thing that, yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that episode up, because that was actually another one that I did want to talk about, because that was where we learned the origins of Evelyn, which is
of the car,
John's
yeah.
car. And one...
Which we've not talked about, oddly. It was his car, which was kind of a big deal.
One, and I don't know why this did not click immediately, that I had to look this up, but, and you may already know this, but I'll share it regardless, is I kept looking at when they were doing the flashbacks of John when he stumbled upon the car, and I was looking at him, I was like, man, they got a kid that looked just like him. That's awesome. Come to find out, that was his actual son. Anthony Mackie's son.
Man, nepotism alive and well. Well, that's good.
I was like, oh.
Well, then that makes sense why he looked so dead on. So, GG.
So, but anyway, in the story, John Doe, the character, has a car named Evelyn, which is a very sporty... I couldn't tell you what kind of car it is. It's a sporty car.
And it's very souped up with all the bells and whistles that makes it possible to transport goods in the apocalypse. There you go.
Right. And he's very, very protective of the car. Now, there was a bit in this that kind of goes back to that overreaction bullshit that we were talking about that just drove us up the wall. And when you have this backstory with him and the car, understanding why the car is so important, there's as this episode is getting to its conclusion, he's going to lose the car. And he is dead set on, I will not lose this car. This is my car. I'm going to get this car back. And one of the disagreements we see between John and Quiet, it could have been solved with the simplest thing. Talking about that jacket or something like that. It's like, you have to understand what this car means to me. Like that jacket is to you with your brother.
Yeah.
This is that for me. All that, just one little line, but they couldn't throw it in, and it was just led to one of those overreactions. Like, I don't understand why you're picking a car over me. It's like, motherfucker, you don't understand.
Right.
This car saved my life. It was there for me. Has been there for me for years.
And I feel like that was almost a character break for him because of how he was annoyingly wanting to get to know her and have conversations and just trying to get her to talk at all. That I felt like he was oversharing. That what he remembered. I know we probably didn't say this, but if you watch the show, like he has like amnesia up to a certain point. Like he only remembers from when he was like 13, 14 on. So, you know, which I guess we'll find out hopefully if there's a next season what that was all about. But so yeah, I almost felt like that was a character break because of how much he's been wanting to share and get to know Quiet and kind of just getting pissy at her for not saying anything. Than to just like not go, why this is so important to me is I would have died had I not found this thing or something, you know? So yeah, it was just kind of I can understand getting pissed at choosing a car over me. To be fair, I am a human being that is an inanimate object. Our lives should matter a little bit more than the car. So from her standpoint in this situation, yes. But to your point, she might have helped.
Yeah. If you explained it, it's not just about it's a car, it's what the car represents for him and has represented for, because we saw several instances where this car seemingly saved his life.
Yeah.
And they never did it in a supernatural way or something like the car was protecting him. It was more like in the moment where he needed it, the car did something for him. And he kind of got it into his head. It was like, oh shit, this car is like doing everything it can to protect me. So we're never going to be apart. And you would kind of get that.
Yeah, sure.
Like your Lucky Charm. So
and it just the whole life you remember is in that car too.
Yeah. So it's there's a reason, and it was just like, just explain it.
Right. And
Just
I
one little
hate
thing.
that when they're trying to like fabricate this kind of drama or something. Like this could have been a whole other different nice moment to have had.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why some people always feel like conflict is always the first very entertaining thing,
Right.
which again, depends on who you are. If you like that sort of thing, go watch it all. That's fine. I can't do the conflict over and over and over again.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
eventually it's got to have a story arc or something, which is the one I wish should have been a little bit more for her, was just to have a little bit more chill by the end. And again, I know we're talking about 10 days, right? I know it was over a 10-day period of time, but still from an entertainment
yeah.
standpoint, just let her lighten up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not everything's a fight.
Trying to look if there was anything else I wanted to touch on. Because we even did talk about the finale and kind of how it came to a head. I thought that was kind of good.
I did like that. I thought that was a very well set up scene for what would be to come. You know,
Right.
I'm imagining it might be other background characters maybe that are coming in, cars maybe that you'd recognize or something. I don't know, but it was definitely setting up a video game type situation at the end where like all of these cars were coming together, driving towards it, and then they were talking about something about some sort of demolition or something at the end too, right? Or am I crazy?
Yeah. Because it was supposed to be the guy that they met in New Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think canonically in the games, this is the guy responsible for the tournament.
Oh, okay.
And now he's actually setting up the tournament.
Okay.
And then he has the characters that he wants to participate. So I feel like it gives, when they are able to go to another season or something like that, now you can have other characters you didn't have a chance to introduce, or maybe you did introduce and didn't
Very
quite
briefly.
flesh out.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you have that opportunity because you're involving them.
Mm-hmm.
And to what degree, I don't know. Because
Right.
I don't know if I'd want to watch a whole season of just the Demolition Derby. It's like,
no. You know
Yeah.
what? I almost think they would pull that BS thing where they would be in preparation for it, but it wouldn't be till towards the end when they actually had the Derby.
right.
Like, I
so,
feel like that could be what happened.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm intrigued. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, the show kind of kept us on our toes. We were trying to figure
Mm-hmm.
out what's going on. And I think it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it if you've got Peacock, if you can get Peacock.
Yeah.
Definitely check it out. And
And it was quick. I mean, it was
yeah.
an easy watch because they're not very long. And I think there's 10 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So, the length of a Batman movie
sure, yeah.
is the entire series, right?
Think about it.
But yeah, I mean, it moved fast. It had a lot of fun. Sure, some of the dynamic they decided to have between some of the cast of characters could get annoying. Maybe it won't annoy you. I don't know. But for me, it did, and a lot of fun characters that you met along the way. I mean, getting to meet people that like have a semi-city, a city that's just on
Yeah.
wheels, like that was some cool people to come across for a moment,
Sure.
like, and learn their background and how they came about and all this kind of stuff. I just wonder like where they keep getting the gas to just be constantly on the go.
Right.
Like that. I have those dumb questions that sometimes I just try to explain away, There's a lot of those moments, like the chick who got shot through the neck, totally fine. Like, okay.
Yeah, right. We were kind of wondering that too. It was like, didn't you just die?
That's what I thought. I thought we just had her death scene. We're like, cool. Or not cool, but like, okay,
Yeah.
so that's a thing that happened. And then, I don't know, the power of love, baby, I guess,
It's a curious thing.
I tell you, the power of love. Because when she pulled up and saw she was fine, I was just like, oh, that's why, you were holding out so she could come rescue you and you guys could live happily ever after or whatever happens there. Because she's now, I guess, part of the Derby also.
I guess.
Miranda.
Yes, I think
Yeah,
that was her name.
yeah.
Yeah.
So because she had like that really cool little, definitely a racer car. Because when they finally started to try to make her look a little bit more badass, we were talking about her being kind of a badass, but we never got to see her really be a badass. And then there at the end when
Right.
she drove that off and, it was like, here we go. She's
Here we
going to have
go,
her big
baby.
moment, Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was a lot of fun. I thought they nailed it with the cast. A good ensemble cast goes a long way with me. And those who made it out for the next one, we'll see. And I'm very curious about the Nev Campbell arc too. Raven. I'll
Right,
say her
right,
name.
right.
I've got it open in front of me. Sorry, just so I could remember character names. I put IMDb up because I knew I'd forget them all. But yeah, I definitely want a little bit more of a dive into her. Like,
Sure,
how
yeah.
did you get to be the leader of this town, and why are you so sadistic?
And
Like, she's evil, you guys. Like, when you find out at the end, like, what the thing even was that was to be transported, dick move, horrible move. And then playing nice, like when she was showing John the city, you know, she's married, she has this beautiful baby, she's taking him around, cooking him steaks, they're doing all this kind of stuff. And then the moment he agrees and drives off, she's like, ugh, like, give this baby away from me. And, you know, like, all of it was just a setup. And you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God. You know, loved that for her. I don't know why. Just like I said, I never had seen her play a character like that. And it's evil. And I really hope we get a little bit more of that. Like, how did she become this way?
Sure.
I feel like that would be an interesting one that I definitely hope they would broach on a little bit more in the second season. Like how they had some flashbacks to explain like Quiet. I hope we have some for Raven.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm super curious how she managed to be this powerful.
Well, it's like you said. I mean, it's a character we've never really seen her before. I mean, how many times can you see her play Sidney Prescott being
I
the
know, poor
damsel? It's like, oh my God, I'm going to fight back and I'm going to kill this character
I
who
said
I
it
have.
was Sydney Watson. Why was I saying that? Who the heck is that even?
I don't know.
When
Maybe
you said Prescott, I was like, why did I say Watson?
I don't know.
Yeah, good.
But
anyway.
Anyway,
Yeah,
point
go
being,
ahead.
she's done that enough. If she doesn't show up in another Scream movie, I could care less.
Yeah.
Or
No,
couldn't care
she's
less.
done her time. She's done her time. She's
Yeah.
put in her time. I honestly think everyone's put in their time. I know people still love it. I still watch them, but I think it's ran its course. Like, it's not offering me anything new. I'm guessing it every time. Sorry. You're not even hiding it from me anymore, so it's not even fun.
Well, even as they're making some interesting choices, like I kind of couldn't quite figure out the killer in the last one, but I kind of did. Just like there were things, and there's like, okay, I see what you're doing. You're kind of playing some games here to where we can stop thinking about other characters. It's like, it's clever, but it doesn't feel like, oh my God, kind of shock to me. You know, like
yeah,
you
definitely
saw in one of the earlier movies where you're like, oh my God.
I don't think you'll ever capture that first one again. Sorry. And those are probably too young that weren't even around when it was out. Like, you kind of missed a little magic bottle moment because of the marketing that went around it. The actors were such hot shit at that time, too, that were in that. And you never had seen something be that clever. You know, it was hilarious, gory. You had no clue who it was. They turned and missed your expectations so many times that, like, yeah, I just don't know you'll ever be able to capture that for me again. And it makes me sad. But
Yeah.
I'm also happy that I got to be there when it happened and got to go to the theater because, man, even the people in the theater were having so much fun. We're, like, screaming at the screen and, like, yelling and stuff. It was a good time. And I just
Sure.
feel sad for this generation that this is the versions they're getting. But if you like it, you like it. I'm not the person that's going to not let you like things.
I mean-
I just personally think it's ran its course. And now
It's
I'm just
understandable.
watching it out of obligation because I've seen them all.
I mean, I still had fun with them. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, I want that. I would love to have that shock and awe moment again. Just,
It's hard because we know the formula.
yeah.
Like, we already know we're supposed to be guessing who the killer is now. We may not know if it's 1, 2, 3, 4 anymore. Like, we might have to guess how many. Well, there's only been once it was 1, right? 3, 4?
Yes. 3, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that was the only time we had 1. And it really hit home. I didn't really realize how many horror movies Jenna Ortega really was in. So do they just they're like blood on her. Perfect. Like, because wow.
Yeah, she's popping up
She's in it
everywhere.
a lot. When she came up in X, I think when I was like, Jesus Christ, woman, that is what you do, isn't it? It's just horror. All right. I need to actively seek out what else she's done because I feel like that's all I've ever seen her do.
It seems like it.
She's had to have done more, but
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess
We got off on a tangent.
We're on a
as
tangent again,
We're
yeah.
good to do.
Scream series.
Yeah.
That'll be another episode. There you go.
Could be. So I've got nothing else to say about Twisted Metal if you don't. So
No, I can't think of anything else that. Yeah, I think I've said what I needed to say. I think it's
All right.
fun. If you haven't watched it and you're looking for something, go for it.
yeah, like I
quick.
said, it's a quick watch. It's a lot of fun, especially if I guess using Deadpool is kind of a gauge.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of Deadpool, again, same
And that
kind of
humor.
sensibilities, some of the jokes and humor, and I think you'd really enjoy it. So, highly
Definitely.
recommend.
If we haven't spoiled it all to hell for you and you're still listening because you haven't seen it yet.
Sure.
I feel like if you stayed this long, you've probably already seen it if it was something you wanted to see.
Right.
If you didn't at all, then who cares, right? We just
Or if
did
you're
it all for you.
one of those people who doesn't really care about spoilers and you're trying to gauge something, maybe you
Gauge
listen
it.
to about half of it and you're just like, all right, wait, I don't want to know anymore. Let me go check it out.
Then I'll come back, right?
And I'll
then
come
you'll come back and listen, right?
So for those of you siblings who may or may not have watched the show, what did you think of Twisted Metal? We'd love to hear from you on our
Yeah.
social media sites at Super Mega Crash, wherever you can find us. If you got a recommendation, also throw it to us over there as well. If we're not on those social media sites that you love, let us know. We'll try to get on there. You can send us an
If
email.
it doesn't require an invite.
Right. If it doesn't require an invite. You can also send us an email at supermegacrash@gmail.com if you prefer. Support the show over on Patreon, patreon.com/pencilpaperproductions. We'll try to put up episodes early or maybe exclusives if, we start getting enough people in where we can kind of generate that content. Because if I'm doing it for
Right.
2 people,
Well, that's still 2 people who would deserve it because they were
True.
kind enough to support.
that is
So
true.
we would like just, more of you to be jealous of those 2 people and
Right.
want to see it at the same time.
And we never said you had to pay like an ass ton of money. We're just,
No.
the tiers are pretty generous as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can do that. Leave us a 5-star review on your podcast app of choice to help us grow in the rankings. So we seem to always do pretty good over on Good Pod. So just every time you
Yeah.
listen, just hit the 5 stars and
I feel like we were sleeping on them
yeah.
a little bit. Yeah.
And they promoted our show on Super Mega Crash Brothers Turbo. Maybe we can get them to promote us again
That was
with
so
this one.
bizarre when you showed me that. I was like, how
Yeah.
did this happen? I don't
Hey.
understand. But hey,
It
I'll
was-
take it. But
For
I
sure.
don't know what happened.
I appreciated the hell out of it. Finally, if you want to keep up with any and all things, pencilpaperproductions.com/Super Mega Crash. Links are in the show notes. Join us again next week, siblings. But until then, go beyond your limits.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.